Punch Out. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at tonight's three-game slate. As far as pitching goes, pretty straightforward, but still some bats you can work with. So as much as I'm against three-game slates, I guess I can see this one kind of being a little bit of a variable where you can put in some different guys.
At this stage in the game, I've absolutely talked myself into making a bunch of lineups, which is not suggested for ROI purposes, but you kind of just look at some of the pitching here. I feel like there's some sneaky, we already talked about maybe, fading Quintana or going Santana a little bit, but also, I don't think a lot of people are going to want to do that. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of sneaky,
Yeah. I think Santana's price here makes it a little bit more easier to kind of go contrarian because you could stack some bats given he's just 7,700.
Yep, for sure.
First game here, Mets and Marlins. Jose Urena versus Jacob deGrom. I'm not looking at really any Marlins bats. You talked about Yelich on the DK pod being a contrarian one-off, but outside of that,
it's really, you don't want to go at deGrom, especially right now. Obviously had that little dip in the middle of the year, kind of had some rough starts of late, but I don't care. It's the Marlins. It's deGrom. They're not the Cardinals. Let's just do it.
I mean, the Marlins have scored the second fewest runs in the league in August. So, I mean, that kind of tells you where they've been at over the last month or so.
And it just hasn't gotten better. I think they kind of had a little fake pseudo, okay, we're fine without Stanton, and then they weren't fine without Stanton.
No. But the Mets here, I mean, I like the Mets. I really like their prices here on FanDuel. I mean, the Jose Reyes, the Asdrubal Cabrera prices are much more reasonable. They've both been hitting the ball really well. Urena's a guy who does struggle with lefties, 366 WOBA since last year, 1.40 home runs per nine, which is usually dangerous against a left-handed heavy lineup like this. So I like the Mets here.
Yeah, I do like the Mets as well. Kind of the same grouping you've mentioned. Certainly Granderson, certainly Jose Reyes as well. So I think you can fire away with those guys and feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jay Bruce, there's some certain upside even with his struggles on a three-game slate. It puts him in play. If Conforto's in the lineup, I don't mind him for value either.
Absolutely.
So if you're looking to punt catcher, I don't mind Travis d'Arnaud either. I mean, 2,300. Even though Buster Posey's much more reasonable here on FanDuel, you can still punt down if you want.
Yeah, probably going to be looking harder at Posey here, but 23 can't beat that, that's for sure.
No, so Mets definitely a good team to target there. Giants and Cubs next. Mike Montgomery versus Jeff Samardzija. Giants' price is certainly much more reasonable here on FanDuel as well. Eduardo Nunez, Angel Pagan, Buster Posey, Hunter Pence. Intriguing right-handed bats here to go up against Montgomery. I kind of like them really in all formats.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do the Giants here, right? I'm in.
Which you don't say often.
No, I certainly don't. But I mean, you can certainly look at the lefties here. I mean, you can look at the righties here. I'm comfortable with Pence, Posey, Angel Pagan. Sure, I'm down for that stack.
Yeah, I mean,
they just weren't appealing on DK. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really the matchup. It was just kind of the pricing. I mean, there were a couple bats that were decent, like Pence was fine over there, seeing with Pagan, but you get the Posey, you get the Nunez with them kind of at a discount here.
Yep, absolutely.
So, solid matchup for them. I think they'll be fine. As far as the Cubs go, I definitely like some of those prices as well. I mean, Rizzo, we talked about him being the kind of the guy to pay up for. But, I mean, Fowler, Zobrist, Hayward, certainly lefties to get exposure to against Samardzija.
41 is kind of expensive for a normal guy, but like that's might be 100% for me here. I don't see how you fade Rizzo at that price, honestly.
It's tough to do. So I mean, Samardzija 348 WOBA to lefties, 1.55 home runs per nine.
We don't even have to get into Rizzo splits against righties to make you believe that's a good play. So certainly in on that. Fowler, Zobrist, Hayward. I mean, that's the four I'm looking for here. Chris Bryant might be a little expensive for me in the optimal Cubs stack I'm looking at, but obviously still in play.
It certainly is, and because we're talking about other options here, like the Mets and Giants being cheaper, I feel like Bryant might be, even though he is expensive, it might be a little bit easier to squeeze him in. So even though he's expensive, I think he could be one of those difference makers in your lineups.
Definitely.
White Sox and Twins next here, Irvin Santana and Jose Quintana. And this was the game you talked about as far as the one that things are going to happen. This is where the lineups are going to be made. And kind of won and lost throughout the tournaments here because you got a lot of kind of boomer bust plays here in a matchup that really isn't the best according to these pitchers.
Right, and again on a 6-game slate, I'm probably not looking at these offenses, but 3 games, all right. There's certainly a little more going on here than the other two. I think those are much more straightforward. On the White Sox side, I definitely look more Noah Eaton. I think that's a really sneaky way to go, and I think you're going to get some lower ownership there. Even a Todd Frazier at 33, I'm sort of okay with. I think that's a really sneaky way to go. And then, I mean, Dozier at 37, I think I don't think that's going to be sneaky, but I like that play in general. Trevor Plouffe, 3K, Sano, 3.2, sure. Even a Jorge Polanco.
We'll take the wheel.
It's certainly contrarian to go with Mets tonight, but overall, or not Mets, Twins, I mean. But if you want a contrarian way to go and you're making like an ROI unfriendly 10 or more lineups, then you certainly want to throw in a twin stack there at least once.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement. I mean, you covered pretty much all the bases there with the Twins as far as Dozier, Plouffe, Sano go, even a Plum if you want to go that route. I'm certainly okay with using Twins in a contrarian way because you're going to have to really make a difference and take that risk. So I'm certainly okay with it. And as you mentioned on the White Sox, I do like Adam Eaton, do like the first base options, and even a Todd Frazier at that price is certainly a guy you can kind of get lower ownership on.
Absolutely.
So, well, that's going to be it. I mean, 3 games, that was pretty short and sweet.
No question.
So that's going to wrap things up with a FanDuel Punch Out. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.